Welcome to Brandon Hall Group's Excellence at Work podcast. You will hear from industry leaders covering innovative, cutting-edge business, learning, and HR topics that weave current market research and technology into each episode. Our Excellence at Work podcast is hosted by Brandon Hall Group's Chief Operating Officer and Principal HCM Analyst, Rachel Cook.
Hi, and welcome to our Excellence at Work podcast with Brandon Hall Group. Thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to warmly welcome two of our guests. We have Trayonna Floyd-Hales, the Director of Warner Media and founder and CEO of 1 in a Million Leadership Development and Coaching. Hi, Trayonna, welcome.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. And also with us, we have Dr. Daniel Neubauer, the Global Head of Talent and Development Global Wealth Management from UBS. Welcome. Hi, Donnie. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Rachel. Great being here.
It's great to have you both. And today we're going to be talking about the future of talent management. And this is part of a series and research for our HCM Outlook, HCM Business Priorities for 2023. And we have a survey out right now. We're gathering data. We produce this annually to take a look at what organizations and HCM professionals, how they are prioritizing around their HCM initiatives, so where they're spending their time, their budgets, their resources, and perspectives. So today, it'll be nice to hear from both Trayonna and Donnie about their experience and what they are going to be focusing on next year, and forward as well. So before we begin our discussion, I just want to share a little bit more about each of our guests today. Starting with Trayonna. As I mentioned, she is the Director in Talent and Performance for Warner Media and founder and CEO of 1 in a Million Leadership Development and Coaching. As a director, Trayonna is responsible for the talent and performance management strategy and experience of over 20,000 employees at Warner Media. She is also the global lead for the company's new manager development program designed to support leaders in more effectively leading themselves, their teams, and the business. And she has a lot more experience too, but for the sake of our time, I just want to share a little bit about her background and then also as well as Dr. Daniel Neubauer. He is driven by 4 values: family first, enjoy life, change things, and enable people. These 4 values drive his behavior, and he's also passionate and curious about talent, learning, creativity, and innovation, driving new product ideas and getting them to their employees and customers makes him proud and helps him going that extra mile. So as you can see, we are going to learn a lot from both Donnie and Trayonna today. And also I want to recognize both UBS. They won 11 HCM Excellence Awards in 2022. Congratulations. That's quite a remarkable achievement. And Warner Media won an HCM Excellence Award in 2022 as well. So they have a lot of great examples here that they're going to be sharing. Congratulations, Trayonna, to you and your team. So let's get started. We're excited, and we're it's such a great we're so lucky and fortunate to be able to recognize companies for their hard work. There's a lot that goes into just applying and thinking about your initiatives and kind of thinking about the different the drivers behind creating the program or initiative, the the design, the development, the integration, the impact. And so, and you're also recognized not just by Brandon Hall Group, but by industry leaders across the world. So that's quite an achievement. So again, congratulations to both of your organizations and teams. And I think let's get started. So Trayonna, can you share your general vision and point of view on the future of talent management at each of your organizations and in general, and what you see now and what next year looks like as some of your what the future holds?
Absolutely. I think it's no secret to any of us who are in this space that it is evolving, right? I don't think that's unique to my company. I think every organization is grappling with what does that new talent strategy look like in this new world. The world of work has shifted and changed, and specifically what employees and our top talent are looking for from their employers has changed, and so we're having to be quite adaptive in real time to those needs, particularly as we look at retention and engagement. Equity and inclusion are some key areas I know my organization is looking at, and I'm sure so many others are. What I anticipate will be top of mind for many folks as we head into the new year is how do we ensure that from a retention standpoint, we're meeting people where they are. I think that's going to require a different level of knowledge and talent awareness. I think for many leaders, we've kind of taken, in many cases, a one size fits all kind of approach to talent. Whether that's let's nominate individuals to programs, let's kind of do the same type of exposure, education, and experience tracking. And I don't know if that's going to fit the needs of our new talent. And as competition for the best talent increases, we're going to have to figure out how to be creative. We're going to have to be much more intentional about how we engage, how early we engage, how long we engage our talent, and then of course we'll have to be, I believe, super intentional about making sure we're giving people reasons to stay with us, right? Not just because we're paying them well, not just because they've got the titles, but what else makes this experience at our companies one of a kind. So I think that that's something we all have to look forward to in the year to come.
That's a good point. And kind of meeting people where they are. We see that also from a learning perspective. A lot of the learning is centered around meeting them just what they as they need. So they're not wasting time and going through training that's unnecessary, because that turns people away. And the same thing with talent management, kind of looking at all of your talent initiatives and kind of understanding your audience. And Donnie, what is your point of view?
So, first of all, thanks for having me. And that's number one. I'm truly privileged to be here. So, if we talk about future of talent management, is a huge question, right? Because the question is, what is talent management? Talent management in the wider sense actually means how do we actually deal with people? How do we actually organize our people portfolio that we have in any organization in the world to be successful? So if we look at just at GWM at UBS, right, where we have 25,000 employees and where I'm responsible for, we have 25,000 different dreams, aspirations, hopes, of individuals who want to drive their careers. We have a lot of people who love their job and who want to stay in their job. There are other people who want to change because they have done the job for a while. There might be others who want to change the job because they think themselves they're a misfit. So as you can see, everyone actually in a workforce has different dreams and different aspirations. Now the question is, what is it that we can do as organizations to help these individuals actually to get the best out of them? Because everyone is being paid, and we want also the best outcome actually of every individual, so they're happy. I also believe that happy employees actually create happy clients. Nothing new that I invented, but Sir Richard Branson also mentioned that. But if we look into the future of talent management, I think it will be even more important to make sure that people have a sense of belonging in any organization in the world, that they feel what they do is aligned with their own purpose as well, so that the purpose of the organization, the purpose of themselves is actually super aligned, and that they can drive and that they can have an impact. And if people see that they can have an impact, actually, there's a lot of things that where they will go an extra mile. If you see that you're successful in what you're doing, you will always go the extra mile. So, what is it that we specifically foresee in GWM or at UBS? Yes, we need to have absolutely our strong performers in the most important roles, right? We call it having the right people in the right roles at the right time with the right attitude and behavior. This is a challenge because first of all you need to identify what are the right roles, right, in the organization, and then you need to figure out, okay, who are the right people, and then the question is, how do you develop them into these new roles moving forward? So I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we will have, finding the right people for the crucial roles that we have, and hence we have key talent programs as most likely a lot of other companies. But the question is, at the end of the day, how you're targeting, right? That's number one. And number two, I think what we also will see is we will see a complete new set of leaders actually within a talent management portfolio who need to display complete new values and new ways of acting that we have never seen before. We all grew up, or most of us who are listening to this one or reading this, um, we grew up in the 90s, 2000s, right? We learned about how management works, code to Mintzberg, right? But matter of fact, it has changed a little bit. It's much more about the servant leadership focus area of helping others to be successful. And I think this is what the future of talent management is all about: is helping people actually to get at the best and to drive impact for any organization in the world.
Well said. There were so many different points that you made that were both of you that had really kind of set the stage for what is talent management and how we should, what we need to think about as far as where companies and leaders are going to be focused, and kind of the changing mindset too, with, how everything is evolving so quickly. One thing that hasn't really changed is that war for talent. If we looked at it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the climate's different. However, it's always been a challenge to get the best people. And even, our research shows, whether it's in sales or any large group in your organization, you're always going to have different tiers of types of, you know, people in your teams. Some are the A players, some of the B players, and some are, you have the good majority that are in the Bs, right? You have 10% or so that are the very top. So how do you get your Bs to get to that next level? At the very bottom, they're just probably not the right fit for your organization, unfortunately. And we all go through that, but you're trying to eliminate that bottom as much as possible, and trying to get that middle part to accelerate, faster and better, and to engage them. And so I think that's where the opportunities are. And you want to retain your top people always. And so as you're looking at kind of your talent management approach, what are some of the challenges that you're facing, and how are you building that, your approach to be able to have the best talent, to be able to retain your talent, engage your talent. Trayonna, can you kind of share your thoughts here?
Sure, sure. So I think going back to what I said earlier, there is no one size that fits all, right? You have to kind of know who you're working with. But I do think one of the things that we are trying to be intentional about is developing our people managers, right? Because that's the one commonality that both our top talent and our strong talent have in common. They all are led by people leaders. And so by focusing on our leaders and making sure that they are equipped to develop our talent no matter where they are on that spectrum has been really critical to our experience. As many we have already known based on what Rachel shared, our organization was a Brandon Hall Award winner for one of our leadership development programs called Management Essentials that was designed specifically for managers. And part of our approach to that was, okay, if the climate has changed around how managers are supposed to talk to employees, how they're supposed to engage them, help them prioritize their work, all of these things, this is not unique just to our top talent. This is unique to all of our employees. So what's that common denominator? And we realized it was the people leaders. So we started making investments specifically in our people leaders to make sure that they were creating the right types of environments where all of our employees would rise to the occasion of being high performers. All of our employees would see the opportunity to invest and be a part of a lot of the priority areas that we were making as a company, whether that be around diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether that was around well-being and sort of minimizing burnout opportunities. So I think by being very strategic around our people leaders, we've been able to reach all of our talent to say, hey, you matter. Hey, your work matters. Hey, here's the North Star that we want you to focus on. And I think that's been a really effective strategy for our organization.
Because they have they're the ones that are connecting with the rest of the teams. And so if they don't have the right skills or the right experience or even attitude that represents your culture or your organization in the way that you anticipate they should be, then that's just going to cascade on downward to teams and their managers and those teams. And so it creates kind of a virus if it's done poorly. So if it's done positively and you have them, you have the right ones in place and you're developing in the way that your culture should be, then then you have, then you're able to continue to engage at all levels. And Donnie, what do you?
So, first of all, I truly appreciate that Trayonna talks about people leaders because that's actually what we all also do in GWM and UBS. GWM, by the way, I know I take abbreviation, is Global Wealth Management, and we are the biggest global wealth manager in the world. So, looking at the 25,000 employees again, people leaders are really important because they really drive the culture. And the way we have tackled talent management in our world, actually, when we look into the development opportunities, is we have actually categorized three pillars, or we have created three pillars that we believe are really driving talent management and which help us to be successful in the future. One clearly is, as Trona mentioned, the people leaders. We call it leadership development because these are the culture carriers, as you mentioned, Rachel, right? These are the people actually who, if they do it right, provide exactly the best culture that you want to see. And we just had the line manager effectiveness score out, and we're again in the 80s, which is above a high performance norm, which makes me again super proud. We really have great leaders, but this is not because of me or the training, but it's actually because there's a culture that we have that we really want to push forward. And this one is not lived just by training, it's actually lived by the communication, it's lived by how people interact with each other. It's really driven by a culture of respect in our organization. So leadership development is one of the pillars. The second piece, which is really important, is the professional development pillar. Because as I said in the beginning, there are people who love their job and who just want to stay in their job and who want to be successful in their job. And we need to make sure that they are fit for purpose today and for tomorrow. It's very easy actually, with all the changes that are coming, digital disruption, etc. Of course, you can try and develop people already into the next world, but actually, we believe that the majority of people is actually 60 to 70% will stay in their roles for the next 2 years or 3 years, but they need to be amazing to serve our clients. So that's why the professional development curriculum that we have, helping people to be great today and great tomorrow, is super key. And then the last piece, and this is also where we absolutely focus on, is talent mobility. So we really need to have an acceleration opportunity for individuals and for cohorts to make sure that we can move them according to their aspirations to the right roles at the right time. And this is actually also where we got awarded from Brandon Hall. We also got rewarded for the professional development because we developed our client advisor. I think this is really the future, and this is also the key. Now, a lot of companies will say, "Yeah, but we are doing this already now." The question is, are we intentional enough of what people should do? Right? So if we look at talent mobility, for example, we look specifically into what brought you here is not going to bring you to the next level. It's just the reality, because just because you were good in the past doesn't mean that you're good in the future. So the key questions that we ask ourselves: what is needed actually to be successful at the very next level? And if we look at our professional development, is what are the key trends, for example, around the world that will hit our industry that you need to be aware of to change actually your attitude, your behavior, your skill set. And that's why we're running, for example, the Future of Wealth Management Summit on a very high, big scale to really educate people around what the future brings. So the talent management piece, as you can see, I'm super passionate about it. It's super important that we make sure that we do the right thing for the right people, and not just by nominating them, but to really understand what are their aspirations, what is the best fit of the organization, what wants the organization with these individuals, and then try to actually have a fit. I'm actually not that concerned about the C category that you mentioned before, because at one point, we don't have that. But I believe these people at one point will anyway say, this is not the right company for me because I can't be at my best. Nobody goes to work because they want to do bad work, right? We all go to work because we want to actually deliver the best that we can do. So if someone is not delivering, then there are different context issues actually that needs to be looked at. Sometimes, it's better for people to go, or they just change jobs within the organization. That's why line managers are so, or leaders are so important in helping to drive this culture.
Right. I think also with a lot of the Oh, just with a lot of the newer generations coming into the workplace and it's their first career, first job, or first experience, that's where you get a lot of, I think, job, mobility, maybe perhaps, or where you need to make sure that you have that plan in place to give them that experience because they may start and not think that is just not for them, but the organization could still be great for them. It's just the job that they're in is not maybe a good fit, and they don't know that until they have some more experience. And then you also see it in different career paths, or kind of depending if certain people take a pause in their career and they come back, they may also shift careers at that point in time. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And Trayonna, you are going to say something in response to Donnie.
Yeah, I appreciated the commentary around internal mobility because I do think it's a really effective strategy. But to Danny's point, you really have to be clear about what are the roles that you need talent for, and is it solving the problem for today, or is it really helping you fortify yourself for the future? And I don't know if a lot of organizations really take time to figure out what that balance is, right? Because it's not an either or. The future is here now. And so I think we're all having to sort of navigate the world we live in today and get people prepared for the world that we know has already gotten here a lot faster and has been accelerated to us. So I think as you think about internal mobility, one of the things that I'm always challenging our leaders to think about is what are the skills, where are the gaps that we have as an organization that would leave us vulnerable in the future. And what that requires is us to take a hard look at data. What that requires is us to reach out to employees and kind of understand their sentiments through employee engagement surveys and things like that. Really using data to help us do some predictive analysis on what do we need to put in place so that as people start to look out, they have incentive to look inward versus immediately thinking that the opportunity lies outside of their organization. And I think what technology, Danny brought it up so perfectly, has done, it's disrupted a lot of the traditional ways that we think about this work. It's created opportunity when you think about globalization and the talent pools that you can tap into, but it's certainly created more opportunities for employees to think about what does the world look like beyond where I am. So we have to be really very compelling with our employee value propositions. We have to be very compelling to that point of career pathing, making sure that that's clear. And then also being as strategic as possible around what can we move employees to today that is the right fit, and then being honest about the gaps where we might need external talent because it's not always a one size fits all.
Triana, you bring up employee value proposition, and I was actually going to ask that before you mentioned. How do you look at EVP? Is it kind of looking at talent? Is it, does EVP sit kind of at the very top, or is it kind of weaved into your talent management? Or, we're seeing in our research where we have a survey also, we had a framework before the pandemic where we were spending a lot of time around EVP, and then kind of that we paused because of other priorities that companies were focused on, more about managing a remote workplace or shifting from a hybrid. So where does EVP sit now for you both?
I think it is. It's been interwoven. I think traditionally, for us, it used to sit at the top. I think now we're realizing that the workforce has shifted and we have to adapt. So I think we're trying to make sure that that message is a part of the entire employee cycle, and that it's interwoven in all of our practices and processes, so that employees are affirmed that this is really a part of the organization's DNA.
Yeah, I mean, so Yeah, I mean, from our side, right? If you look at what does EVP mean, it means actually what's the employee experience, right? If we really look at the employee value proposition, what is it that we truly offer to individuals? And if you really look at that, it goes really across the entire employee experience that you have. It goes from recruiting of why should I join this company where we talk about purpose and where we talk about values and behavior. And there are a lot of assessments even to figure out, do people match right for our organization. You can question some of these. Lots of them make a lot of sense because I believe you need to have a common denominator. Then you have learning, right? Or you have the development piece where we really want to give people the opportunity to say, you can become whoever you want to become at the end of the day in any organization. And then last but not least, it's also about the rewarding and the performance piece, right? Where why people join a bank, for example, instead of going to another industry. There are a couple of reasons, right? If you're true to your purpose because you want to help individuals actually to reach financial wealth or health, in both cases, financial health. So if we look at the employee value proposition, I completely agree with you. It's not a standalone. I think it's completely woven into. It's the same actually as D&I, right? We need to be. I think one of the challenges that I always see in HR, and I know we're talking about talent management, not the future of HR, but we always focus on specific highlights and we just give them their own circle instead of thinking, okay, how does that all connect in our employee life cycle, right? Because D&I is exactly the same. You need to make sure that from hiring to rewarding people, everyone should actually feel inclusive and be part of a culture. So I hope that answered maybe your question. By the way, Rachel, there was one other point that you mentioned in the beginning, just to come back, which was the war of talent. If I can just quickly jump on that one. I think everyone hated COVID, and everyone is still blaming COVID for the last really horrible 2 years that we all had. On the other hand, working for a global company like UBS, it gives us a complete new game field, tapping into amazing talent which are not in your home country. Now, if I just look into UBS, we're a global company. We can now pick any talent actually around the world. Um, they can sit wherever they want at the end of the day to make sure that they're part of our workforce, which we would have never tapped into because we wanted them to be in our offices in the past. Our policy is there are some roles where people need to go back, clearly because regulatory, but actually the majority of all roles at UBS, you can work from wherever you want. So actually, COVID opened up a new door of talent management actually in finding talent that we have never thought about, who are now sitting completely somewhere else and who are helping actually our franchise to grow.
Yeah, those are some really good points. And you both kind of gave some examples of articulating the benefits and what the expected future benefits are to engaging and recruiting the best talent and retaining the best talent. Are there any other things that companies should be considering as they measure their results and how they should measure their results, especially with so many different dimensions and variables that you have to look at?
I mean, I think the biggest problem starts already with the with the fact that most of the companies actually don't have any KPIs to measure the success of talent management, right? If I look into our programs, for example, that we have, or generally the way we look at talent mobility, right, which I talked about, the third pillar, we have clear KPIs where we say, for example, we want 33% of all participants in a specific program to change their roles within the next 24 months. Now, we were super successful with this by hitting 63%, right? So almost more than every second person actually changed their role within the next 24 months. But again, it's an accelerator program. So this doesn't happen just because we want people to move, but because, for example, we force people, I mean, force again, in, I don't know how to call it in English, but because we tell people actually to have a discussion with the recruiters, and when jobs open up, that these are actually first considered. So that's something, for example, that we have introduced, which we have never done before, and actually which shows a lot of success. We also see, for example, that because we give them a white glove service, the retention KPI that we have of 8% compared to 11 that we have is at the moment at 4.7 or or 4.8. So it works, but for to be successful in talent management and to measure your success, you first of all need to define your KPIs, and the KPIs are very different for every company. For us, it was very clear we want to drive internal mobility, we want to keep the best people in the organization, and of course, we want to make sure that our workforce is as diverse as possible also in the future, and building up a strong leadership pipeline, right? That we have strong successors. Can I measure this? Yes. Was that impossible 3 or 4 years ago? Absolutely, right? Because it's very difficult actually to get this data. And but yeah, I believe this is how you need to measure the success. I don't know, Trayonna, how you deal with this.
Completely agree that those KPIs are critical and they have to be top of mind from beginning to end, right? One of the things that I think is really important for us as we think about how we're measuring success is um, not just planned hits. I mean, those are always wonderful when you can ensure that as you planned, that pipeline is developing and delivering what you need when you need it. But one of the things that I think has been really helpful for us is thinking about cross-functional talent, right? I think sometimes when we see a rock star in a role, we go, "Oh, you're really good in this business area. Oh, you're really good where you are." Maybe we'll just kind of advance you in that same pipeline versus saying, "Okay, let's be creative. What other parts of the business could this person be valuable? Where could they apply their talent in a different way that would stretch them and make them much more of an asset to the business and also meet their aspirations," right? So it's that nice balance between meeting the business needs and the employee need. I think obviously attrition is something we all have our eyes on right now, retaining everybody that we need to retain in those critical roles. So to Danny's point, you got to be able to identify what those are and making sure, especially in those spaces, that you do have a strong pipeline and that you have a plan if there are significant gaps. But I do believe right now success for us and our organization is how many cross-functional leaders do we have? How many people do I have that aren't just an emergency successor, but someone who, if given the opportunity, could stretch their wings and continue to soar in a different space. So we're really working to see how we can build our talent in that space because I think oftentimes leaders go and buy that kind of talent when we have opportunities right now to really think about how do we build those people? How do we set that expectation that we want you to not just be an expert where you are, but have that cross functional opportunity available to them when they are ready for that next level? And then being very clear about our expectations. I think that's one thing that talent is looking for. And if we're measuring success in terms of people getting to role and being successful in role, we have a part to play in being clear about what we need, why we need it, and when we'll need it. So I definitely think the KPIs clarity there, and then certainly wherever you can redefine success in a way that's meaningful for us, that means how many leaders we can move around when we need to.
Great points from both of you. And as we wrap up, if if you had two or three points that you could leave our audience today with, any lessons learned or guidance as they are looking at talent management into the future, what should they be focused on? Donnie, do you want to tee us up here?
I can start. I hate to give advice to other people because every company is very different. But what I believe helped us as an organization is we had a very clear plan of what our strategy is when it comes to talent management. It was very clear of how do we want to develop actually our people. So without a business strategy that is then cascaded into a talent management strategy, it's very difficult actually to do talent management. Number one. Number two is, and I think this is what I've experienced also in the past in other companies where I worked before. If you don't have senior buy-in, very difficult actually to execute on a very good talent management practice. You can have the best ideas, but at the end of the day, it's not me or the recruiters to decide who's going to move in the organization. It's actually the business who needs to have the buy-in and who really wants to move people around. And then last but not least, execute with focus. So be very clear of what you want to deliver. And lastly, which I think is for me at least the most important thing, if you do talent management, have an amazing team around you which supports you to drive the agenda. That's what I have, and I feel super privileged at UBS. I have an amazing team who are really laser focused to execute on this. So also make sure that not just the people in the business, you have the right people at the right place. Also make sure that in the talent management space, you have the right people at the right place.
Absolutely.
And for
And
me, I
Trayonna,
think, yeah, I think for me, my 2 to 3 would be number one, remain agile, right? As talent practitioners, it's really important that we stay relevant and that we are evolving with the organizations that we support. And so, what worked for us in 2019, 2020, even 2021 may not work for us in 2022 and beyond. So, I think it's really important that we come into this with an agile mindset, open to learning, curious. Um, and prepare to meet the business where they are to ensure that we are aligned with that business strategy. So I think that's the first thing: stay agile. I think the second thing is I can't re-emphasize this point more. Invest in your people leadership. I mean, I think that is going to make and break organizations going forward. People leaders are being asked to lead completely differently. So, and make that investment, equip them with what they need to be your gatekeepers of culture, to support and drive the results that you need in your organization. They're critical. They need to be appreciated, supported, equipped, and validated that that work matters just as much as the execution of results. So wherever possible, make sure that it's the standard that people leaders are expected to deliver at the highest level, to see it as a covenant role where they actually do enjoy working with people, developing people, because that's critical for the work that we do in the talent practice. And I think the third thing is it's simple. We all do this work because we want to see people be at their best, right? And I think in the world where burnout is real and so many competing priorities, keep the people first. I think that can sometimes get lost in the day to day work that we do every day. But keep the people first, because oftentimes that's what's brought us to this space. And I think that that's what employees and our business are looking for us to do, to help them keep people first.
well said. And it's interesting. I'm kind of reflecting back on some of our research that we've done over the years. And some of the reoccurring themes come up is around people and around people and experience. And so obviously there's so many other areas that we need to focus on, but the experience and the people are most important, and especially your leaders. And so, and I love hearing from both of you because you're both coming from two different industries completely: media, global media, and global banking and finance. So both of you, have such unique perspectives, but a lot of similarities too in what success looks like and what we should be focusing on when we're looking at talent management for the future. So thank you for sharing, and I'm excited to reveal this to our community in a variety of different ways through our podcast and our research study for next year. Also, we're looking forward to having Donnie at our HCM Excellence Conference in January, February of 2023. Trayonna will miss you, but you're going to be going on maternity leave. So congratulations. And that's even, that's even better. So
That's real talent management.
yeah.
Indeed.
And one of our key members will also be going on maternity leave in January, and she heads up along with our other leader, our conference. So I'm going to be missing her a lot too. But maybe we hope to see you in June for our D Excellence DEI conference. So hopefully you'll join us then, Trayonna, and both of you. But anyway, thank you both for sharing with me and our audience. And thank you so much. And have a wonderful rest of your day and year ahead.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Rachel.
And thank you everyone for listening in and joining us. Take care.